You guys, it's Karen and I'm here to talk about the differences between the 1% retinol from Ordinary and the 2% Advanced Retinoid, and I am here to tell you all of the things that I feel aren't being said about the Advanced 2% Retinoid. So what I'm going to do is tell you the difference between retinoid and retinol in generic terms, not in terms of these products, and then I will talk about what's different about these products. And can I just say, I'm holding this up because it's a very, very similar bottle. I have gone through my whole bottle of the Advanced 2% Retinoid and I didn't keep the bottle, and I've ordered another one and I don't yet have it. So I'm just holding this up just to represent the retinoid. So you've got retinoid and retinol. Retinoid is what you would recognise as Retin A. There are different types of retinoids and retinoid creams that are used for different purposes, but they work in the skin as retinoic acid. Then you have retinol, and retinol is basically a weaker form of retinoid. Retinoid is something that you can only get on prescription. Retinoid cream will work in the skin as retinoic acid, whereas retinol needs to be converted to retinoic acid. So there is a second step involved. And the way that that manifests is if you are using retinoid, say it takes 1 month to reap the benefits of using that cream. If you use retinol, the benefits are the same, but it could take 3 months. There's no exact matching the two, but it will take a lot longer because it has more work to do to be converted to retinol. Retinol has become very popular over the years because it is a form of retinoid, and because you can't get retinoid, most of us can't get retinoid on prescription. You certainly can't get it for aging in the UK. You can only get it if you have really bad acne. Well, not really bad, but you can get it if you have acne. And so retinol is something that's easily available to us all. And the other reason that it's probably popular as well, over and above retinoid, if you can get it on prescription, is because there's less side effects because of the fact that it's not as potent. So you won't get the same, with both of these you will get dryness, you'll get peeling, but you won't get it to the same level with using retinol. You can't specifically compare, you can't say that a 1% retinoid is equal to a 2% retinol or anything like that. There isn't an exact figure as far as I know, but I have used a 0.05 retinoid cream, and I would say that that's about equivalent to a 1% retinol in the dryness and peeling, etc. But not many products that are over the counter actually have 1% of retinol. A lot of them are 0.5% or 0.25%. So at the top, the strongest is retinoid. Then you've got retinol, which is this one. Then you have got pro-retinols. Pro-retinols are retinol palmitate, for example, is what's called an ester of retinol. And that means that retinol has been combined with, in the case of retinol palmitate, palmitic acid, and formed an ester, which is another weaker version of a retinol. So you've got retinoid, retinol, pro-retinol, which are weaker still. And again, somebody would use those if they had very, very sensitive skin and didn't want to even use retinol because it was causing too many problems. You could use pro-retinol. So the benefits of both of them are they can reduce brown spots and pigmentation, pore size, fine lines, discoloration. They are thought to be very beneficial for skin. They were first used for acne, but it was noticed that fine lines were disappearing, and that's when it became popular for anti-aging. It also encourages production of collagen and elastin, which is great for keeping us looking youthful and plumping up the skin, etc. And all of these benefits are proven in retinoic acid, in retinoid, in retinol. It just will take longer for retinol and then pro-retinol to work. So they're all proven. So what do we have in the Ordinary Skincare? We have got the Ordinary 1% retinol. So this has got 1% of retinol in it, which is the highest I've ever seen in any skincare. But the great thing about this one is it doesn't have any added nasties. It is a pure form of retinol. It is not mixed with anything else. There's no fragrance. It's just a concentrated product. So this is proven for aging, very good for all of those benefits we're talking about, because it's in a pure form and not diluted in any way with any moisturizers or anything else. It is very potent, and so you do need to be careful using this. I've used this I think twice, and I have got stinging under my eyes. I've got dryness here. I can actually feel it as I run my finger across it. Dryness on the top of my eyelids, and that would suggest to me that I need to use it less than twice a week. I need to use it once, and I'm going to leave it now and use it once next week, and I need to make sure I moisturise really well afterwards. So that's the 1%. The interesting one is the Advanced 2%, which is a new discovery. So it's called Advanced 2% Retinoid, but it's not retinoid as we know it. Like I said, it's a new discovery. So this new discovery is called hydroxypinacolone retinoate, and it is an ester of retinoid. Do you remember I talked about you've got the retinoid, retinoic acid, you've got retinol, which needs to be converted to retinoic acid, and then you've got pro-retinols, which are an ester of retinol and would need 3 conversions before they got to retinoic acid. And what you have in the Advanced 2% Retinoid cream is the new ester, the new retinoid ester. It's called a novel retinoid, mixed with retinol. They have put retinol in the Advanced 2% Retinoid. Claims on the website, the Ordinary website, are that it is less irritating. This advanced retinoid ester, or this advanced retinoid formula, is less irritating than retinol, and that it is more effective than retinol. When you read the actual research, it says it's more effective than retinol esters, which is quite a big difference between those two things. But they are saying that it's better than retinol, I believe. Let me just double check. Which have been shown to achieve better reduction in signs of aging than retinol without irritation. Okay, so they are saying that. They are claiming that it's more effective than retinol. So let's have a look at those claims. The first one, sorry, I have got my notes, which you'll hear me shuffling about. The first one, that it's less irritating, seems to be true, even without looking at research, because everybody that I've read or watched reviews of that has used the Advanced 2% Retinoid, including myself, I used the whole bottle, so I probably used it for, what, a month or something, found no irritation whatsoever, and that's the feedback that I'm seeing. Combine the retinoid with dimethyl isosorbide, which is a conditioning agent, so it's like mixing it with moisturiser, and the retinol that is combined with it is encapsulated, which means that it's basically like time release, so it won't give you the whole effect all at once. It will slowly release, and therefore the effect will be less. So I agree, less irritating, 100%, definitely less irritating. So the claims on the website are that it is more effective. The second claim is that it's more effective than retinol. The claim, when you read the documentation about the ester, is that it's more effective than a retinol ester. I would expect it to be more effective than a retinol or retinol ester. However, those claims are not proven. So although that would make sense, especially as this product doesn't need to convert, it seems to go straight to work with the retinoid receptors. It does suggest that it is more powerful, but there is no proof of that. So those are the claims, that this is a wonderful new product that does everything that retinoid does, but it's not as irritating. So let me tell you my concerns and questions about that claim, and I have 9 points here. The first one is, if there is a lack of irritation from the conditioner and the encapsulation system, so it uses a conditioner with the retinoid and an encapsulation system with the retinol to make it less irritating, then why would you not just combine a retinoid with a conditioner, and there you have a product that doesn't irritate, if that's why it doesn't irritate? I guess with the answer to that could be that it's still prescription only, so that's fine. But with retinol, for example, they're 1% retinol, why is that not encapsulated so that it doesn't cause irritation? So that would be a question I would have. It doesn't make sense to me that the lack of irritation is because of simply the conditioners and the encapsulation. Which leads to my second point, and I think this is where they're using clever marketing, and because the words are so similar, retinoid and retinol, people aren't registering what it actually means. It doesn't claim to be as good or better than retinoid, and that's something to be aware of. What you will read is that it's better than retinol. It's better than the things you can already buy over the counter, is what it's claiming, but it's not better than retinoid. It's not even the same as retinoid. They're just claiming that it's better than retinol. There's no proof of that, but I'll talk about that in a moment. Esters, by their nature, are weaker than the original product because you are combining, it's like diluting orange juice basically. You combine it with an acid. So an ester is weaker than the original product. So my belief is that there's less irritation because it is an ester. For example, I used Dermic R, and that is a retinol, but I think it only had like 0.25% retinol in it. That caused me no irritation whatsoever, none. My skin felt lovely and soft, it felt wonderful, as it does when I use the Advanced 2% retinol from the Ordinary. It was very moisturising and yeah, no irritation at all. So my feelings are that it's the actual ester is weaker than a retinoid, which they're not disputing, and maybe weaker than a retinol. There is no way of measuring the strength of it. The most important thing I want to explain to you is that this is not 2% retinoid. Again, it's clever, a clever name for the product and clever language. It's called Advanced Retinoid 2%. It is 2% combined, but it's not 2% retinoid, even retinoid ester. It is a combination of the retinoid ester, which by the way is called hydroxypinacolone retinoate. I can't remember if I told you that, but it's also known as HPR, so I will probably refer to it as HPR. It is a combination of HPR and retinol, and it doesn't tell you the combination. It could be 1% retinoid plus 1% retinol. I don't think it is because of the lack of irritation. It could be 1.5% retinoid, 0.5 retinol. It could be 1.5 retinol, 0.5 HPR. It's not 2% retinoid, and I know that I've seen several reviews where they're saying 2% is a really good amount. 2% in retinoic acid would not be good on your skin. It would be really potent, but this is not 2% retinoid, and even if it was 2% of the retinoid ester, it's not retinoic acid. A small point, but in the data sheet about the HPR, the retinoid ester, it recommends it be combined with an antioxidant such as vitamin E, and this is not combined with vitamin E or an antioxidant as far as I can see. The next thing I want to tell you is about the lack of information, or the lack of credible information. So if you search this hydroxy HPR on Google, you will find a couple of articles, but please look very carefully at those articles, because one of them is written by a company called Pestle and Mortar, who actually buy the HPR, and it is in their product. It's in their night oil that is very, very expensive. It's £65. It was raved about by Caroline Hirons. I'm sure it is a wonderful product, but they are of course biased because they use the product they use the ingredient in their products. And that's one of the articles I read. There's very few articles. There's another one written by cosmeticsandtoiletries.com raving about this wonderful new retinoid, and it is a sponsored post. If you go to the bottom, there is a disclaimer saying that it's paid content. I would suspect that that is paid by Grant Industries, who discovered and manufacture the HPR, because she doesn't seem to be talking about any particular type of product. So she's not talking about the pestle and mortar oil, or I think there's a philosophy cream that may have a little bit of it in it. There are a few products out there that have some of this in. So somebody is paying her to talk about this new retinoid ester. Then there are some other articles written, some other blogs, but they seem to be taking some of the information from the base articles that are either by people that are selling products, people that are being paid, you can only assume by Grant Industries, or they're written by Grant Industries themselves, because they have written their own blog post. So I just feel like there's a lack of independent information out there. The only information you can find on this hydroxy, on this HPR, is a couple of articles that have been paid for or written by people that have a vested interest. That leads me on to the fact that there's no research on this ester, or no independent research, and no clinically managed research. They have done one study on 50 people. That's it. The only research on this is 50 people, and it seems to be a research study on irritation. So they used the repeat application to test if there was any irritation. And then they did a questionnaire. So they haven't even seen the people again after 21 days. there's no suggestion that they've done research at all on the aging effects, although they refer to it, and there is one photo of one person that has a little bit less lines around their eyes. There's no data on that research study at all. The only research study is 50 people testing the irritation, 21 days and a questionnaire. This to me says it may be a great product, but it needs a lot more research. And in fact, one of the articles actually says that, and again, they word it in such a way that I'm sure this is going to be further researched and proven to be great for aging. And I would agree, I'm sure it may come out in a couple of years' time that this is superior to retinoid. But at the moment, that's not the case. There is no proof whatsoever. Just 2 more points. And like I said at the beginning, it may sound very anti-novel retinoid, but I worked in research for many years and I love research and I love new things. But new things need to be tested to make sure that they don't have long-term bad side effects or long-term side effects, and that they are actually effective. You can't just find something and say that it's effective. One of my points actually I think might just be me labouring the point, but retinization is the term used for the peeling that occurs when you use some kind of retinoid or retinol as your skin regenerates, because that's how it works. It's cell regeneration. And so my question would be, why no irritation? Now, if they answer that it is the combination of the conditioning formula with the retinoid plus the retinol encapsulation, then I would say, well, why can't you combine that with retinoid or retinol? So 1% retinol encapsulated, great. Of course, they are using this retinoid ester because it's not a drug. It doesn't have to be prescribed. So that's the wonderful thing about it. That is the really good thing about it. And the final point, and that is regarding this particular product, this advanced 2% retinoid, is if this advanced retinoid, which by the way you can use up to 10% of hydroxypineapolone retinoate, it can come in a concentration of 10%. If it is so amazing and so wonderful, why have they mixed it with retinol? You know, if they believed themselves that it was a genuine mimicker of retinoid, then they would have just put in 2% of the retinoid ester and not added in any retinol. Now, I have to confess at this point, there may be some reason for using retinol with retinoid that I am not aware of. I don't know how the two, one may support the other, but that I can't find any information on that, and I am not aware of that. But it is something I'm curious about. Why not just have the advanced 2% retinoid without the retinol in it? So you'll be glad to know that's everything I have to say that are my questions and concerns. I've just got a real bee in my bonnet about advertising, and I always have had. Since Kev and I discovered stuff in the supermarket, it's not false advertising, it's just misleading. That's the word I'm looking for. Misleading, especially to people that don't necessarily know, even that there's a difference between retinoid and retinol. It's getting people to spend their money. Now, on the Ordinary website, they actually recommend that you use the retinoid. Let me tell you what their website says about the 1% and the 2%, and then I promise you I will summarise. So on the retinol 1%, it said it's a form of vitamin A, softens fine lines, contains 1% pure retinol. It has been studied extensively, it's irritating to the skin, and newer technologies exist that mimic the visible effects of retinol without causing irritation. So it's saying here it mimics retinol, but not that it mimics retinoid. For this reason, we generally recommend using the advanced 2% instead of this formulation. So on the website for this 1%, they are recommending you buy the 2% instead. Bearing in mind this has got retinol in it, but I don't think it's 1%. It's recommending that because this mimics retinol, but this is a stronger retinol. I can't say that this is a stronger retinol because, like I said, there is no way really to compare because this is such a novel product. So they are recommending that you use this, but of course this one is £5.80 and this one is £8. So there's a £2.20 difference. So I don't know whether that would be the reason or not, but let's have a look at the Ordinary 2%, what they are saying. Again, it's kind of a lot of language. What they're saying is that HPR is an advanced form of retinoid, which is a non-prescription ester of retinoic acid. So that's true, it is an ester of retinoic acid, it is non-prescription. Said it offers a multifold better effect against signs of aging than retinol. So it's not saying, it's saying it's a non-prescription retinoid, but it's better than retinol, retinol palmitate, which is the retinol ester, so yes, and nearly all other forms of non-prescription retinoid. So it's basically saying it's better than retinol. There is no proof of that, so I don't think they should be saying that. I do think that they should be saying it may be, but there's no proof of that just yet. So it goes on to say this product uses next generation retinoid active technologies which have been shown to achieve better reduction in signs of aging than retinol without irritation. And this is just not true. I mean, I suppose it's not saying it's been proven, it says it has been shown. Yeah, I guess it has been shown by one person out of their study. They show one photo. These technologies cannot be compared directly with retinol. It goes on to say that there is no direct comparison. And actually the only thing that is proven is it has a similar action. So I think that this advanced 2% retinoid is a very exciting product. I think it's very new, there's no research, but it's very exciting, and I look forward to seeing the research going forward. I look forward to seeing what it shows. It currently has showed that it's not irritating, but there's no research showing that it's better than retinol, retinoid or anything else. But it does have a similar action to retinoid, so that's why I think it's exciting, and I'm looking forward to seeing the research. I think that it's less irritating for two reasons. I believe it's less irritating because of their delivery system, which is combining it with a conditioning agent and encapsulating the retinol. I hope now that you would see that they would maybe do an encapsulated retinol 1%. That would be interesting to see how that reacted. But I also believe that it may be less irritating because it is a weaker product. There have been a lot of people that have said they've been using, for example, the Sunday Riley Lunar Oil, which has some HPR in it, that they've had things disappear. You know, it was interesting to read Caroline Hirons was saying that she had a boil that disappeared in 2 uses of it. You don't know that it was specifically that ingredient that did it, but I think she thinks it was that ingredient. So I've heard quite a few things like that where people have said they can notice a difference in their skin within a couple of weeks. From what we know just now, there's nothing wrong with the safety profile of it. It doesn't seem to have anything harmful in the formulation, so I am quite happy to use it in combination with the retinol 1%. So which one would I recommend you buy? Both. I am going to use the retinoid regularly, the advanced 2% retinoid regularly, and once a week, maybe even less, I will use the 1% retinol, because this does cause irritation. But from what I can tell of this, certainly it's lovely to use, so there's no reason there for me not to use it. I enjoy using it and it makes my skin feel lovely. There's no concerns. I have no concerns over it doing anything bad to my skin, so I am going to use it in the hope that it does have a similar action. I will maybe do some photos every few months and see if I can see anything different. But just to be sure I am using the proven one, I am going to use the retinol in my regime as well. It's an unusual one because normally I would have a recommendation one way or the other and say get this one or get that one. It depends what you're looking for. If you want to be 100% sure that you're using something that's proven, go for the retinol 1%. If you are more concerned about the irritation and you've always had irritation, and especially if you're young and you're not yet fighting aging, use the 2% retinoid, and you know, it can't do you any harm and it may be doing you some good and you won't get irritation and it's lovely to use. So it all depends on what your goal is. So I think that's everything there is to tell you. Please let me know if you have any questions, but hopefully I've covered everything. Let me know which one you're using. I'd love to know where the percentages fall. You know, are most people going for the retinol or most people going for the retinoid? I would bet that most people are going for the 2% retinoid because of the way that it's been marketed, because you've got people like Wayne Goss saying, actually he called it retinol, and a few people mentioned in his comments, you know, that it's actually a retinoid. I imagine that retinoid, the 2% retinoid is what most people are buying, but I'd be interested to know. I'm still waiting for my arginine oil, or is it an oil? I don't even know if it's an oil. I don't know what it is I've ordered, but when it arrives, I will do my research. I try to do my research before the video. So this was what I was doing last night whilst watching TV, and Kev was kind of talking to me in between, and eventually he was like, what are you researching? So that I can remember it, you know, because otherwise if weeks go past, you think, how was I going to say that again? Or what was my reasoning for writing that? I can't even understand my own notes. If too much time goes past, my memory is that bad. So once I get that and have used it, I will do a review for you guys and talk about the ingredient and what I think of it. I'll only do it where I've used it a couple of days. I always do first impression reviews for you guys. That's everything. Makeup today is my Lancome Tinted Ultra in 010. I've got on my eyes, I use my Too Faced Natural Eye palette, and then I put some of the, it's the glitter, the Kitten Karma glitter. What do you call it? Stila, the Stila liquid eyeshadow. And I used a NYX waterproof primer to see if I could get this eyeshadow to not fall out on me. And I have to say, so far, it's not too bad. I do have a bit of fallout, but not too much. NARS blush in Sin. What was my lipstick? Stila liquid lipstick in Caramello. That's everything. Thank you very much for watching. And